So I'm wondering, in your situation, I read today that you had an $8 million contract offer that you turned down. I'm wondering if that's true. If it's true, why you did it, what your alternative plans are, and if you have like a real developed vision for what it would be like to keep doing what you're doing, but also be successful. That's a lot of questions.
Oh, that's okay. I knew what I was getting into when I came on the on the program. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, music is important to me individually. Like these songs that I wrote for me, and inadvertently it has helped a lot of other people, like not just Richmond, north of Richmond, but I've got to get sober. Like that's one that I just recorded on my Android phone. And if you look through the comments and emails I've gotten, I had a gentleman the other day at Moyock. We played at a farm market, and he told me that his brother had committed suicide. He had been struggling with drugs for years. This is like a big, gruff guy, like a guy that looked like he could kill me with 2 fingers. And we hugged each other, and as he cried and told me this, like that's what's important to me, is like people are just so desperate to restore some element of humanity back in our life that we've somehow lost. So I don't want to, I don't want to make this into some enterprise where everything's about beating the algorithm and being at the top of the charts and posting in social media at just the right time to capture the most audience. Like that there's plenty of people who are out playing that game, and they're good at it. And I'd like for them to continue to do that. I just want to feel like I have the freedom to do whatever I find it is necessary in that moment of time to impact people the way I have so far with the music that I've produced. I have something like 21,000 emails right now in my Gmail. I've got 2,500 unread messages on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and they're not just people telling me, good music, dude, keep it up. No, it's paragraphs of stories of like people having to work 2 jobs because they lost their business during COVID, and their kid committed suicide. And it's just wretched stuff that it is the full transparent narrative of what a lot of us already see on the surface level of what's happened the last few years. And yeah, so I don't know what I want my music to turn into. It may manifest itself into some form of a like a nonprofit or a ministry more than just me going out. Like I don't want to just go yell all my songs in a stadium, every weekend for the rest of my life. Like I want this to turn into something that's more meaningful than that, if that makes any sense. So,
well, there's a bunch of things you said there. I mean, when I started to blow up and started working in a much more broad public manner, one of the things that was really hard on me was the kind of emails that you're describing. I'm not complaining about this. I'm just pointing it out. Like I'd done a lot of clinical work, and I'd seen a fair bit of misery in my clinical practice. I mean, that's an understatement. But it was limited at most to a couple of dozen people. And then all of a sudden I was doing lectures for thousands of people and meeting thousands of people, and then hearing the kind of stories that you're hearing from hundreds or thousands of people. And, you talked about dehumanization and desperation, and it's really quite overwhelming to start to see that in that heartfelt sense you described. That big guy was giving you a hug and breaking into tears. I mean, you meet a couple of hundred people like that in a week who do the same thing, and I found that extremely, extremely difficult because I didn't really understand how widespread that demoralization and desperation was. And to see that on a large scale was really heart-stopping. So that's dangerous.
And to add to the point, it exists within the music industry. Like, they say never meet your heroes, but I've gotten to meet quite a few of my heroes the last couple of weeks. And they have ridden the roller coaster of signing a big deal and playing shows and being in those contracts and in that algorithm. And they are, I can't speak for everyone. I'm sure there's people that love to go out and tour and do it, but like a lot of my heroes in music that I've talked to are not happy doing what they do. Like they're not happy having to go out and so they've told me,
let me tell you what our experience. Yeah. Well, so my wife and I have been touring now for 4 years. And I'll tell you how we've managed it if you're interested. First of all, it's a real privilege, right, to be able to go out there and speak in front of thousands of people. And it's been a real adventure to go all over the world. Now, we have allied ourselves with top-rate people, and that's unbelievably helpful. So I've got a personal staff that handles security and logistics, and they take care of all the travel details, flights, hotels, getting me to the venue, Tammy and I to the venue. That's 100% off my plate. And we had a rule that we learned while touring, which was that if you have anyone with you that causes any trouble at all, that they don't immediately fix. So if they're troubled, they have to leave. You have to have people along who are like 100% zero trouble, because it's a lot of work to move from city to city every day and to be there for thousands of people, and you can't have unnecessary trouble. And then you have to figure out how to time it so that it doesn't wear you to a frazzle. You know, you can die from an overdose of great opportunities, as you're definitely going to find out and maybe already have. And so you have to figure out for yourself how you can take enough time so that you have that opportunity to do your creative work and not to exhaust yourself. And, you know, that takes a certain amount of testing to see where that balance is. I travel with my wife. That really helps. We often travel with some friends or some family. The same rules apply. We won't travel with people that cause any trouble, but it's nice to have people along because that keeps you, well, you get to know them better. It's a good adventure for them, and that keeps you together. I mean, it's possible to do this in a way that's like hyper enjoyable, and so that you get an opportunity to play for many people. But, you know, it's a demanding enterprise, and you have to 100% make sure that you're surrounded by people who take what can be taken off your plate and that you can seriously trust. And then it can be an insane adventure.
Data brokers, those invasive tech companies, spy on your online activity, compromising your freedom. They monitor every click, action, and word, then compile and sell this information to corporations and foreign governments. These entities don't care about your welfare. That's why we use ExpressVPN, a company dedicated to protecting you from these Big Brother surveillance operations. With ExpressVPN, your entire online activity flows through secure, encrypted tunnels, ensuring complete privacy. No one, no data brokers, big tech companies, or even your internet provider can track your online behavior. ExpressVPN masks your IP address, the digital identifier that enables data brokers to collect and sell your information to questionable companies. That's why we at the Daily Wire are proud to partner with ExpressVPN. Both our hosts and production teams rest easy amidst their busy travel schedules, knowing their data isn't being compromised or sold regardless of where they're using the internet. Plus, for U.S. customers, ExpressVPN's new Identity Defender feature removes your data from brokers' databases, monitors the dark web for your compromised information, and alerts you to unauthorized social security number usage. Using ExpressVPN is about defending your fundamental right to privacy. As our lives increasingly move online, more of our personal information becomes vulnerable to surveillance. Protect yourself with ExpressVPN today. Find out how you can get 4 months free by scanning the QR code on screen, clicking the link in the description box below, or by going to expressvpn.com/JordanYT.
I'm excited for the opportunity to travel. Yeah. Like we've had, it's as you're aware, this, like just the initial song broke in so many countries. Like, I've gotten an outreach. It was a shame that I couldn't travel abroad yet. I don't have a passport, but like, I just got a message last night from a girl in Rome saying that, you know, she and her boyfriend have been riding around all night listening to my music, and Ireland and Scotland. Like I do intend to travel. I just want to do it in a way that is more meaningful than just showing up in an amphitheater and shouting some lyrics at people and then everybody gets drunk and goes home. Like I I'm sure there's a way I can conceptualize this to have more impact, because that's the importance of the song to begin with, is the impact it had. That it somehow broke beyond the political front that has like almost encapsulated every part of our society today, not just in North America, but really globally. Like, the message resonated with people in all types of different cultures and countries. It's like, this phenomenon of politics sort of almost parasitically capturing the way we think about everything. That's a global thing. That's not just a North American thing at this point. And it's happening very quick.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So two things on that. Well, okay. First of all, one of the things that's happened, I think, is that the sacred has collapsed into the profane. And so the political has now become sacred. You have to have a space for things that are sacred so they stay out of the political. And everything has become too touchy to talk about because everything political has become religious. And that's really not a good thing. It's part of the reason that we need that a religious foundation isn't optional. I know you talked about that a little bit with Rogan.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that's interesting, you said you don't want to go just to a stadium and shout out lyrics and let everybody get drunk and go home. And, one of the things I've also seen that's unfortunate is that many of the artists I've talked to, and these were often people who had stellar, like, international careers, they're afraid, and I'm not saying that this is necessarily the case with you, but I'd like to talk about it with you. They're afraid that their mere art isn't good enough, given the importance, let's say, of all the political and maybe religious upheaval there is in the world. But, I actually don't think that's true. I don't think, like, I've gone to a lot of concerts and I've watched the kind of quasi-religious nature of a great concert. And I actually don't think there's anything more important that an artist can do than, in your situation, for example, is to give the best damn concert you possibly can, and I can see you're torn between that to some degree, because you say, well, you don't want to go and shout out a bunch of lyrics so that people can get drunk and go home. But then that what you've done has spoken to many people very deeply all around the world, and that what you've done was a genuine expression of what you really believe to be true. And I would say that if you go to a concert and what you do is you really sing what you believe to be true, there actually is no better service that you can possibly do to people, no matter what it is that you're doing. Like, I don't think there is anything, except for what's truly religious, I don't think there is anything that supersedes genuine art, not in terms of potency and truth. And I think you're seeing that because of what happened in relationship to your song. And I think that's also partly because of that other point you made, which is, and the same with the song about sobriety, is you're actually writing your songs. I think Hank Williams did this, and Johnny Cash too, unbelievably effectively. The genuine songwriters, they're not writing to max out the algorithm, and they don't have contempt for the audience. That's not what I mean. But they're not doing it for their own fame. They're doing it to express something approximating the truth in the way that they see fit. With you, that's obviously going to be musical. So one of the things I would say is, don't be thinking there's any higher purpose you can serve than the genuineness that you bring to your art, man. Good musicians I think people die without good music. It's so important. We have no idea how important it is.
Yeah,
how
I agree.
key it is to humans.
It's obvious to me that music is, every culture that we know of, whether they're, music is something that manifests itself in any society. And the more that people suffer, the more they lean on music, Some of the best music's been written in the worst of times. So I definitely agree. Like, there's an element of healing to it. And one thing that I've noticed about the music industry, just now that I'm in the business, one of the things I've noticed is that we prioritize, as with a lot of things in art now, like we prioritize through the system of the music industry, we prioritize what can make the most money and not necessarily what can resonate with the most people or what's the most genuine and authentic. And so, like, in country music, now, I loved 90s country music as a kid. I remember riding with my parents and my grandpa and listening to, the Alan Jacksons and George Straits and Bubba Shot the Jukebox. And, like, those are just fun, like, just good songs. But somewhere country music, and I think music in general, has really lost a connection with people because it's become too commercialized and not enough about. And so that's kind of like, yeah. So I've turned down a lot of offers. The latest one I saw was 100 million. That's certainly not the case, but yeah, I have had millions of dollars thrown at me, and I've had everything thrown at me the last couple of weeks. And, but I guess the reason why I want to stay on my own path is that, I'd like to inspire other musicians to do the same thing. You know, like the story of kind of how all this came about is just, I mean, most of the music's from my Android phone that I, just recorded, put it on YouTube. I ripped the WAV file, uploaded it. There's a service called DistroKid you can use. You pay like a nominal fee annually. They don't take any of the money, and it automatically puts it on all the platforms for you: Spotify, Pandora, Apple, YouTube Music. Like, I would like to see more people do what it is I did. Like, I'd like, if anything, I'd like it to inspire other artists to not worry about going through a record label or worry about trying to find a big booking agency, but just focus more on creating whatever it is you feel compelled to create and get it out there, and not worry about everything else. Because obviously that's what we're so desperate. I mean, like even just the phenomenon with podcasts in the last 5 years, like the fact that people can sit here and listen to us talk for an hour and a half so intently. And like, that's been me. I listen to podcasts all day long. People are just at this point desperate for authenticity and desperate to connect with other human beings on a level that we haven't been able to connect on very well in the last 10 years because of technology and politics and government and just sort of this weird separation that's been put between us. And COVID certainly accelerated that to a whole new light. Like it's a very weird world we live in today. And so, yeah, that's kind of my thought process, I guess, to kind of wrap up that on me in my future. It's more about trying to create a new way of thinking with music, and really it's an old way of thinking, but it's just bringing it into our time,